Streamflation. It's everywhere, and everyone's a streaming company now. Back in the day, Netflix was $8, Hulu was free, and Disney Plus was $7. Now the most basic plan comes with ads. You can't share passwords anymore, the content's gone way downhill, and you have to wait an entire week just to watch a new episode. And that one show or movie you want to watch is only available on that one streaming platform you don't have. What happened to streaming? Why are there so many options? Why is the content so bad? Why are there so many ads? And why is it so expensive now? In the olden days, if you wanted to watch something, you had a few options. You recorded it on TV, you rented a DVD from Blockbuster, you went to the theater, or you purchased a digital copy from iTunes. There were no streaming platforms, and media companies thought streaming was a joke. So when Netflix came along, there was basically no competition for streaming. And the big media companies were just happy to license out their content because, in their minds, it was free money. Fast forward about a decade, and all these companies realized the same thing. Why on earth am I selling my content to Netflix? Why don't I just start my own streaming platform? Now, if you want to watch Star Wars or Marvel, you've got to go to Disney. If you want to watch Game of Thrones, you've got to go to HBO. If you want to watch The Office, it's only available on Peacock. If you want to watch Mission Impossible, it's on Paramount+. Netflix used to be the dumping ground for every media company. Anything you could think of watching was on Netflix. Now everyone's holding onto their IPs as tightly as possible because they realize it's a competitive advantage. Case in point, NBC is paying $500 million just to regain the exclusive rights to stream The Office on Peacock, which is really ironic given they own the IP to begin with. All these media companies are pulling content left and right from Netflix, and that's created a big problem for the company because the thing that made them so popular doesn't exist anymore. So they're having to reorient their entire business model around creating original IPs, original content, and they're set to spend like $17 billion in 2024. Okay, but let's look at the stats. According to Forbes, 99% of US households are subscribed to at least one streaming service. Netflix has around 260 million subscribers, Disney has around 150 million, HBO has around 90 million, Paramount Plus has around 60 million. Okay, so it obviously makes sense why the big media companies care about streaming. They want to monetize their giant content libraries. But what about technology companies like Amazon and Apple? It's not just about subscriptions. There's a bigger element at play, something every streaming company's focused on, but nobody's talking about. In the past, traditional streaming platforms only made money from one source, subscriptions. So that means every streaming platform on the planet has the same two goals: acquire as many subscribers as possible and retain them for as long as possible. Netflix's biggest problem is you hitting the unsubscribe button. There are a bunch of metrics that companies look at to monitor this, but really it comes down to two core things: user growth and churn rate. That's why they're constantly running promotions, and also why they make it so hard to unsubscribe. The thing that really matters to these companies is maximizing the average revenue per user. Basically, the amount of money they think they can make from you in the lifetime of your subscription with them. If Netflix spends $88 to acquire you, they don't just want to break even. That $88 only accounts for marketing costs, not the other $17 billion they're investing into content, the amount of money it takes to run their infrastructure, or anything else they have to pay for as a company. They want to make a profit, and that means they want you to stay subscribed indefinitely, in perpetuity. So in order to keep acquiring users, you have to have this non-stop content engine. That's why you see these companies spending billions and billions of dollars every year to produce original content. All of the marketing is always built around these cycles for new shows, for new movies. The moment one ends, another begins. It's the whole reason you can't just subscribe anymore to binge watch a brand new TV show. It's also the same reason the quality has gone so far down. It's to pump out as many new shows, as many new movies as possible. Disney basically killed two of their biggest cash cows, Star Wars and Marvel, because they focused on quantity and not quality, and now they're suffering the outrage of fans. And now they're trying to fix the problem by pulling back on content and actually spending less and focusing on making quality. Make sure you subscribe so we don't have to pull back on content and you can watch our latest video. The problem with streaming companies is that there are only a few levers you can use to increase revenue, because at some point user growth always starts to plateau, and revenue always starts to flatten out after a certain time because there are only a finite number of users who will subscribe to your platform. Netflix ran into this exact problem in 2022 when their stock plummeted because they reported a subscriber loss for the first time in the company's history, which makes sense given this is right about the time competition started to heat up in the streaming world. So you only have a couple of options to grow revenue: increase prices, upsell existing subscribers to more expensive plans, block password sharing, or serve ads. Right now, every streaming company is doing a combination of all of these. And the reason they all start out so cheap initially is because they're trying to acquire as many users as possible. But once you have a big enough user base, the focus always flips to monetization. This is the story of tech since the beginning of time. You give away something for free, you get your users hooked on the platform, and then you raise the prices after they realize how much value they're getting. If you don't believe me, just look at this price chart for all the big streaming companies. You slowly normalize something that wasn't normal. Just think about it. YouTube started with 3-second ads, then they went to 5-second ads, then 15-second ads, and now they're even blocking ad blockers. Literally nobody, and I mean nobody, has any idea how big the digital advertising ecosystem is going to be in the next few years. From the outset, it should be obvious, right? More than 95% of Facebook's revenue comes from ads. 77% of Google's revenue comes from advertising, and it's pretty much the same for every big tech company. Twitter, Reddit, Snapchat, all of them. Digital advertising spend is on track to reach over $1 trillion by 2030. That's a lot of money to tap into, and it's evergreen because you can push ads to the same users over and over again as long as they're in your platform. The problem with traditional media companies like HBO, Netflix, NBC, Paramount is that all of their revenue is tied to their media. Disney has toys and theme parks, Amazon has AWS and e-commerce, Apple has hardware and Apple Music, and that means these companies can throw ridiculous amounts of money at streaming because all of their expense is offset by their other revenue streams. Media companies are just at an inherent disadvantage because they only make money from subscriptions, licensing, advertising. It's the reason Amazon can spend $1 billion on a TV show like Rings of Power and not even blink an eye. It's just a drop in the bucket for them. For Amazon and Apple, the opportunity is even bigger because they have huge user bases just waiting to be monetized. It's estimated that there are over 2.3 billion Apple devices worldwide, and Amazon gets around 2.3 billion visits every single month. The problem with Netflix is they only have engagement data, what you're watching, when you're watching it, how long you're watching it for. Amazon has more transaction data than anyone in the world, so they can pair that with your viewing habits. And that means they can sell more accurate audiences to advertisers because they know more about you. And the exact same is true for Apple because they own the hardware. If you own hardware and software, you can track just about everything there is to know about a person. Where you live, where you sleep, how many steps you take in a day, what you search for, what apps you use. Anything there is to know about you, Apple probably does. Streaming platforms just offer this hyper-targeted advertising that just hasn't been possible before. The problem with cable TV is you could only ever target at the household level or the geographic level during specific times or shows or channels. Pretty much you could just select when the ad ran. Advertisers want to know where every single dollar is being spent, and streaming just offers way better targeting and attribution. I mean, just look at YouTube, for example. They can literally tell you exactly what users are clicking on an ad. And YouTube is the real winner in the streaming wars because they've had ads for years. You don't just grow to 2 billion users and 30 billion in advertising revenue with blind luck. So what ends up happening is these streaming platforms just become another channel for companies to push ads to you. Apple is literally in the process of building out an ad network. They're currently snapping up ad tech executives, so it's only a matter of time before they launch some sort of privacy-centric ads. You see, we're getting to the point where advertising is so good that the ads you see aren't even going to feel like ads anymore. It's just going to be something you didn't realize you needed to buy, right at the exact moment you needed it. Every day, the average person generates around 143 gigabytes of data. According to ChatGPT, that's over 47,000 photos. And every brand gets a sliver of that data on you. It's become the most powerful resource on the planet. It's the key to everything. And streaming companies aren't the only ones using it either. We just made a whole video talking about how Walmart is overhauling their entire business, and they're actually becoming a tech company and nobody realizes it. So make sure you check it out.